The conference room felt like it was closing in on me. 20 people sat around the table, including 3 of our biggest clients. I was halfway through my presentation when Victoria Barnes, our HR director, stood up and interrupted me. "I'm sorry, everyone, but I need to stop this," she said loudly. Her voice cut through the room like a knife. "Marcus has been struggling with his performance lately, and I don't think he should be leading this meeting." My face burned. The clients looked confused. My co-workers stared at their laptops. I opened my mouth to speak, but nothing came out. "Actually," Victoria continued, smiling at the clients, "I'll take over from here. Marcus, you can sit down." I stood there frozen for what felt like forever. Finally, I walked to an empty chair in the corner. My hands were shaking. One of the clients whispered something to his colleague. They both looked at me. Victoria took my presentation slides and started presenting my ideas as if they were hers. Everyone listened to her. Nobody said anything to defend me. How did she get away with that? That question burned in my mind as I sat there, humiliated and powerless. My name is Marcus Hayes. I'm 32 years old, and until 6 months ago, I loved my job at Pinnacle Solutions. I worked as a senior client relations specialist. I built relationships with our biggest accounts and created strategies that brought in millions of dollars. Or at least I used to do that. Now I'm the guy who got embarrassed in front of clients by the HR director. I'm the guy everyone whispers about in the break room. I'm the guy who might lose everything he worked for. But here's what Victoria Barnes doesn't know. Here's what nobody in that conference room realized as they watched me walk away in shame. I had been recording everything for 3 weeks. Every conversation, every meeting, every lie she told about me. I documented it all legally, carefully, and completely. I saved emails, I backed up files, I kept notes with timestamps. Victoria thought she was destroying my career. She thought she was winning. She had no idea that I was building a case that would end hers. 3 months earlier, everything was different. Victoria used to stop by my desk and compliment my work. She called me the future of this company. She told me I was exactly the kind of employee Pinnacle needed. Then something changed overnight. She started questioning everything I did. If I sent an email, she said my tone was wrong. If I scheduled a meeting, she said I didn't get proper approval. If I submitted a report, she found mistakes that weren't really there. At first, I thought I was imagining it. Maybe I was being sensitive. Maybe I needed to work harder. But then other people started treating me differently too. Colleagues who used to grab coffee with me suddenly avoided me. My invitations to strategy meetings got accidentally overlooked. When I walked into the break room, conversations stopped. I felt like I was going crazy. What had I done wrong? I worked the same way I always had. My client satisfaction scores were excellent. My projects were successful. Then one day, I overheard something that explained everything. 2 managers were talking in the hallway outside the bathroom. "Victoria says Marcus isn't reliable anymore. We should probably keep him off important projects." The Brookfield campaign was my baby. I spent 3 months developing the strategy. I researched their market, interviewed their customers, and created a complete rebranding plan. I worked nights and weekends. I poured everything into it. The presentation was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. I arrived early, organized my materials, and practiced my talking points. I was ready. But when I walked into the conference room, Victoria was already there. She was standing at the front with my slides on the screen behind her. "Marcus, good morning," she said sweetly. "I'll be presenting the Brookfield campaign today. You can observe and learn." I stared at her. "But I created this campaign." "We created it as a team," she corrected me. "And as HR director, I oversee all client-facing materials. Please take a seat." The clients arrived. Victoria presented my work word for word. She used my research, my graphics, my strategy. When the clients asked questions, she answered using my notes. Everyone congratulated her afterward. The Brookfield representatives shook her hand and praised her creativity. She never mentioned my name once. I was still processing what happened with Brookfield when my computer pinged. It was an email from Derek Chen in accounting. Wait, I need to avoid that name. Let me use another name. My computer pinged. It was an email from Derek Mitchell in accounting. The subject line said, FYI, check this thread. I opened it and saw a forwarded email chain. Derek had accidentally included me when he meant to send it to someone else. The original emails were between Victoria and our department head, James Palmer. I read them carefully. My stomach dropped. Victoria had been systematically removing my name from project reports. In one email, she told James that I contributed minimally to the Brookfield campaign. In another, she suggested I was struggling to keep up with expectations. The timestamps showed she had been doing this for weeks. Every project I worked on, every success I achieved, she had been quietly taking credit and erasing my involvement. There was one line that made my blood run cold. Marcus won't be here much longer anyway. No need to give him credit for work he won't finish. I saved everything. I backed up the entire email chain to my personal drive. Then I started looking for more. 2 days later, I got called to HR, not Victoria's office, but the main HR office downstairs. A woman named Patricia Rodriguez sat across from me with a folder. Marcus, we've received some concerns about your performance, she said gently. What concerns? I asked. She opened the folder. Inside were printouts of emails and reports. Your manager and colleagues have noticed some issues: missed deadlines, incomplete work, unprofessional behaviour. I read through the papers. The language was oddly familiar. Then I realised why. The phrasing matched exactly how Victoria spoke. These weren't from multiple people. They were all written by her or dictated by her. Can I see who submitted these concerns? I asked. Patricia hesitated. That's confidential, but we want to help you improve. I haven't missed any deadlines, I said calmly, and I'd like to see specific examples of incomplete work. She couldn't provide any. She talked in circles for 20 minutes about general observations and colleague feedback. Nothing concrete. Nothing real. I walked out knowing exactly what was happening. Victoria was building a paper trail to fire me. I needed to build my own trail first. The quarterly review presentation was my chance to prove myself to senior leadership. I had prepared a comprehensive analysis of our client retention rates and new strategies to improve them. I practiced for hours. My slides were perfect. The presentation was scheduled for 2 p.m. At 1:45 p.m., I opened my laptop to do a final review. The file was gone. I searched everywhere. It wasn't in my recent files. It wasn't in my email. It wasn't in the shared drive. Panic set in. I ran to the IT department. They checked my computer remotely. The file was deleted 20 minutes ago, the technician said, but not by you. Someone with admin access removed it. There was only one person with that kind of access to my files. Victoria. I had to present in 10 minutes. I went to the conference room empty-handed. Victoria was already there, sitting in the back row, with a slight smile. I tried to present from memory. I stumbled through explanations without visuals. The executives looked confused and unimpressed. It was a disaster. After the meeting, Victoria approached me. That was unfortunate, she said. Technical issues happen. Maybe next time, be more prepared. She knew exactly what she did. The following week, I met with our biggest client, Hammond Industries. Their CEO, Douglas Hammond, had specifically requested me for the quarterly check-in. We had a great relationship. I'd managed their account for 2 years. But when I walked into the meeting, Douglas looked uncomfortable. Marcus, I appreciate you coming, but I need to ask you something directly. Is everything okay with you? I was confused. Yes, why? Your HR director called me last week. She said you're planning to leave Pinnacle soon. She suggested we might want to transition to a new account manager. She said you've been unreliable lately. My jaw dropped. I never said I was leaving. I'm not planning to leave. Douglas studied my face. That's not what Victoria told me. She said you were job hunting and seemed checked out. I took a deep breath. Douglas, I promise you that's not true. I'm committed to your account and to Pinnacle. I don't know why she would say that. He nodded slowly. I'm glad to hear that. I was concerned. You've done excellent work for us, and I didn't want to lose you. After the meeting, I sat in my car for 20 minutes. Victoria wasn't just sabotaging me internally. She was destroying my reputation with clients. This was bigger than I thought. I went home that night and didn't sleep. I kept thinking about everything Victoria had done. The stolen credit, the false reports, the deleted presentation, the lies to clients. She was systematically destroying my career. She wanted me gone before the promotion committee made their decisions. If I left or got fired, she could take over all my client relationships. She could claim credit for all my work. But she didn't know something important. The next morning, I walked into work calm and smiling. I said good morning to Victoria when I passed her in the hallway. She looked surprised. She expected me to be broken. Instead, I was planning. I realized I had one advantage she didn't know about. I had access. I had credibility with people she didn't realize. And I had information she thought was hidden. The promotion committee was meeting in 3 weeks. Victoria expected me to be gone by then, either fired or too humiliated to stay. But I wasn't going anywhere, and I had a plan. 2 days later, something unexpected happened. I was working at my desk when someone approached. I looked up and saw Elaine Porter, our CEO. She rarely came down to our floor. Seeing her was like seeing a celebrity. Everyone straightened up in their chairs. "Marcus," she said warmly, "do you have a moment?" "Of course," I said, standing up quickly. "I wanted to thank you personally for that strategy memo you wrote last quarter, the one about expanding into the healthcare sector. I've been sharing it with our board members. It's brilliant work." I was stunned. "Thank you. I didn't realize you had seen it." "Oh, yes," she smiled. "I read all the strategy memos from senior staff. Yours stood out. I particularly liked your risk analysis section, very thorough." She chatted with me for a few more minutes about my ideas, then left. I sat down slowly, processing what just happened. Victoria had been in her office across the hall. Through the glass walls, I saw her watching. Her face was pale. She didn't know the CEO read my work. She didn't know Elaine knew who I was. I had just found my advantage. The next week, my email pinged with an unexpected message. It was from Elaine's assistant. "Miss Porter invites you to join the Leadership Development Forum this Thursday evening. Dinner and discussion with senior leadership, business casual attire. Please confirm attendance." I confirmed immediately. The forum met at an upscale restaurant downtown. When I arrived, I recognized several executives and senior managers. Elaine waved me over to her table. "Marcus, I'm glad you could make it," she said. "We do this monthly. It's informal, but we discuss leadership challenges and strategic thinking." Throughout the evening, we talked about company growth, market trends, and management philosophy. Elaine asked for my opinions several times. She listened carefully when I spoke. At the end of the night, she pulled me aside. "There's something sharp about you, Marcus. You think differently than most people. I like that." I thanked her and drove home with my mind racing. Victoria had been sabotaging me because she saw me as a threat, but she didn't realize the real threat. The CEO had noticed me. The CEO valued my work. Victoria had been terrified of the wrong thing. She should have been terrified of this. Monday morning, Victoria called me into her office. She had a stack of folders on her desk. "Marcus, I need you to handle these projects," she said. "The Hendricks proposal is due Wednesday. The Summers audit needs to be completed by Thursday. And I need a full department report by Friday morning." I looked at the folders. Each project was usually a week's worth of work. She was giving me 3 projects with 3 different deadlines in 1 week. "That's a lot of work in a short time," I said. "Well, if you can't handle it, maybe you're not right for this position," she smiled. "Let me know if you need help managing your time." I took the folders. I didn't argue. I didn't complain. I went home that night and worked until 2 a.m. I did the same Tuesday and Wednesday. I finished the Hendricks proposal with 2 hours to spare. I completed the Summers audit on time. Friday morning at 8 a.m., I submitted the department report. Every document was perfect. Every deadline was met. But I did something else too. I kept detailed records. I logged every hour I worked. I saved every email showing the conflicting deadlines. I documented the impossible timeline she gave me. When she asked how I finished everything, I smiled and said, "Just good time management." A week later, Victoria scheduled an unexpected performance review. She didn't give me advance notice. She just sent a calendar invitation for performance discussion urgent. I walked into her office at the scheduled time. She had papers spread across her desk. "Marcus, we need to talk about some serious issues with your performance," she began. For the next 30 minutes, she listed problems. I wasn't collaborative enough. My communication skills were lacking. My project management needed improvement. My attitude was concerning. I listened quietly. Then I asked simple questions. "Can you give me a specific example of poor collaboration?" She talked about general patterns but couldn't name an instance. "Which communication issues are you referring to?" She mentioned feedback from colleagues but couldn't show me any documentation. "What project management problems have you observed?" She referenced missed expectations but couldn't explain what expectations I missed. Every time I asked for specifics, she couldn't provide them. She got frustrated. Her answers contradicted themselves. At one point, she said I missed a deadline in September, but I had never had a project deadline in September. I had been on approved vacation. She realized her mistake. Her face flushed. She quickly moved to another topic. I took notes on everything. I documented every contradiction. That evening, I went home and pulled up Victoria's quarterly reports. As HR director, she submitted reports to senior leadership about departmental performance, training costs, and staffing efficiency. I compared her numbers to the real data I had access to. Something was wrong. She reported that training costs had decreased by 15%, but the actual invoices showed they increased by 8%. She reported that employee satisfaction had improved, but the anonymous survey results showed it had declined. She reported that I had required extensive coaching and remedial training, but the training logs showed I'd completed standard quarterly sessions, nothing more. Her numbers contradicted reality. She was manipulating data to make herself look good and to make me look bad. I created a spreadsheet comparing her reports to actual data. Every discrepancy was highlighted. Every manipulation was documented. This wasn't just about me anymore. She was lying to senior leadership about departmental performance. She was falsifying reports to the executive team. This was proof of serious misconduct. I saved everything to multiple drives. I backed it up to cloud storage. This evidence was too important to lose. I requested a follow-up meeting with Victoria to discuss the performance review. She agreed, probably thinking I was ready to quit. I brought a notebook. I took detailed written notes throughout our conversation. I wrote down everything she said, word for word, with timestamps. She repeated many of the same accusations from before, but this time she added new details. She said I had received complaints from 3 different clients. She said I had submitted inaccurate reports. She said other employees had expressed concerns about working with me. I wrote everything down calmly. I asked her to confirm certain statements. "So you're saying 3 clients complained? Can you tell me which 3? "So, Amici," she named Hammond Industries, Brookfield, and Mercer Group. All 3 were my best accounts. "And when did these complaints occur?" "Over the past 2 months. I nodded and kept writing. She was creating specific lies now. That was good. Specific lies could be specifically disproven. After the meeting, I went back to my desk and pulled up my client correspondence. I had emails from all 3 clients praising my work. Hammond had sent a thank you note just last week. Brookfield had requested me specifically for their next project. Mercer had given me a 5-star rating on their satisfaction survey. Victoria's lies were getting more detailed and more disprovable. My evidence file kept growing. I was getting coffee in the break room when someone approached me quietly. It was Kyle Anderson from finance. He was a quiet guy who usually kept to himself. "Marcus, can I talk to you privately?" he whispered. We walked to an empty conference room. Kyle looked nervous. "I probably shouldn't tell you this, but I think you need to know. Victoria altered your project budget last quarter. She moved money from your accounts to make it look like you were over budget." I stared at him. "How do you know?" "I processed the budget reports. I saw the changes. She didn't have approval from finance or your department head. She just changed the numbers and submitted them." "Do you have proof?" Kyle hesitated. "I have the logs. I can send them to you if you keep my name out of it. I can't afford to lose my job." "I'll protect you," I promised. "Send me everything you have." That afternoon, Kyle sent me the budget logs. They showed Victoria had moved approximately $15,000 from my projects to make them appear over budget. She then reported to management that I was fiscally irresponsible. It was intentional fraud. It was deliberate sabotage. And now I had proof from an independent source. I remembered something Victoria had said during my review. She mentioned that I wasn't being considered for the upcoming promotion. She said the decision had been made. But the promotion committee didn't meet for another week. How could the decision be made already? I did some investigating. I talked to Alex Rodriguez in operations who served on the committee. I asked him casually about the timeline for promotion decisions. "We haven't reviewed any packets yet," he said. "We don't meet until next Monday." "Why?" "Just curious about the process," I said. That was strange, if the committee hadn't met. How did Victoria know I wasn't being considered? I went to James Palmer, my department head. I asked him if my promotion packet had been submitted. He looked confused. "I assumed you submitted it directly to HR. That's the process." "I gave it to Victoria 3 weeks ago. She said she'd handle it." James frowned. He made a phone call. After some discussion, he hung up and looked at me. "Your packet was never submitted to the committee." "Victoria had my promotion packet. She never turned it in. She deliberately prevented me from being considered." I asked James if we could check her office. He agreed. We found my packet in her desk drawer buried under other papers. It had never been submitted. James looked angry, but I stayed calm. "Can I take a photo for my records?" He nodded. I photographed everything. The next morning, I received an email from Patricia in HR. My stomach sank when I read the subject line, "Client Complaint Investigation." The email explained that a formal complaint had been filed against me by a client. The complaint claimed I was rude, unprofessional, and dismissive during a recent meeting. Patricia wanted to schedule an investigation meeting. I read the complaint carefully. The writing style was oddly formal and overly detailed. It used phrases like "demonstrated unacceptable behavior" and "failed to maintain professional standards." No real client would write like this. Then I noticed something. The complaint mentioned a meeting that happened on September 18th, but I had been on vacation from September 15th through September 20th. I wasn't even in the office. I checked my records. The client named in the complaint was Mercer Group. I pulled up my calendar and emails. I had never met with Mercer Group in September. Our last meeting was in August, and it went perfectly. I looked at the writing style again. It matched Victoria's tone exactly. She had written this fake complaint herself. I sent Patricia a detailed response. I provided my vacation records, my calendar, and my email correspondence with Mercer. I proved the meeting never happened. I also kept copies of everything. I was working late one evening when someone knocked on my desk. It was Maya Thompson, a junior designer who worked on my floor. She looked scared. "Marcus, I need to tell you something," she said quietly. We went to the parking garage where no one could hear us. Maya looked around nervously before speaking. "Last week I was in the copy room. Victoria was in there with another manager. They didn't know I was behind the printer. I heard everything they said. What did you hear? Victoria was bragging about you. She said she was burying you. She said you thought you were so smart but you had no idea what was happening. She laughed about the presentation file she deleted. She said by the time you figured it out, it would be too late. My hands clenched. Did anyone else hear this? No, just me. But I wrote down what I heard right after, with the date and time. I thought someone should know. Maya handed me a piece of paper. It was a detailed statement describing what she overheard, with specific quotes. She had dated and signed it. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because it's wrong. You're a good person. You've always been nice to me. Victoria is cruel, and someone needs to stop her. I thanked Maya and promised to protect her identity. I added her statement to my evidence file. Now I had a witness, someone who could corroborate Victoria's malicious intent. I spent an entire weekend organising everything I had collected. Emails showing credit theft, budget logs proving financial manipulation, performance reviews full of contradictions, false client complaints, the promotion packet Victoria never submitted, Maya's witness statement, Kyle's budget documentation, client emails praising my work. I created a timeline, I cross-referenced dates, I organised everything chronologically. Every piece of evidence supported the next piece. There were no gaps, no contradictions. I had proof of systematic sabotage, fraud, defamation, and misconduct. Everything was documented, time-stamped, and verifiable. On Monday morning, I sent a formal request to Elaine Porter's office. Request for confidential meeting regarding serious workplace concerns. Urgent matter requiring executive attention. Her assistant responded within an hour. Miss Porter will meet with you Wednesday at 3 p.m. Please bring any relevant documentation. I had 2 days. I spent them reviewing everything one more time. I practiced explaining the situation calmly and professionally. I prepared for questions. I organised my evidence into a clear presentation. This wasn't about revenge. This was about justice. This was about protecting myself and my career. This was about stopping someone who was abusing her power. Wednesday at 3 p.m., I walked into the CEO's office with a folder full of evidence. It was time for the truth to come out. Elaine's office was on the top floor with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. She gestured for me to sit at her conference table. Marcus, your request sounded serious. What's going on? I took a deep breath. I need to report systematic misconduct by Victoria Barnes. I have extensive documentation. Elaine's expression remained neutral. That's a serious accusation. Show me what you have. I laid out everything methodically. I started with the Brookfield campaign theft. I showed emails proving I had created the work. Then I showed her how Victoria presented it as her own. Next came the deleted presentation. I showed the IT logs proving when the file was deleted and who had access. Then the client complaints. I provided my vacation records, my calendar, and emails from clients praising me. I showed her the budget manipulation logs from Kyle. I showed her the promotion packet that was never submitted. Finally, I showed her Maya's witness statement describing Victoria bragging about burying me. Elaine's expression changed as I presented each piece. Confusion turned to concern. Concern turned to anger. By the end, her jaw was tight. This is detailed, she said carefully. You've been documenting everything. I had to protect myself. She studied me for a long moment. Marcus, do you trust me to handle this properly? I met her eyes. Yes. Good, leave everything with me. Don't discuss this with anyone. I'll handle it from here. 2 days later, Victoria's assistant sent out a meeting invitation. Emergency leadership review, all department heads and senior leadership required. Friday, 10 a.m. Attendance mandatory. Nobody knew what it was about. The rumour mill went crazy. People whispered about restructuring, layoffs, or acquisitions. Friday morning, I walked into the executive boardroom. Victoria was already there, sitting at the table with other managers. She looked annoyed but not worried. Then Elaine walked in. Her expression was serious. She closed the door behind her. Thank you all for coming on short notice, Elaine began. "We need to discuss some critical issues that have come to my attention." She pulled up a presentation on the screen. The first slide showed the Brookfield campaign materials. "I want to review the Brookfield project. Victoria, you presented this campaign to the client, correct?" Victoria smiled. "Yes, it was a successful collaboration." "Who specifically created the strategy?" "My team worked on it together. I oversaw the development." Elaine clicked to the next slide. It showed my original draft emails, time-stamped months before the presentation. My name was on every document. "These drafts show Marcus Hayes created the entire strategy. Your name doesn't appear anywhere in the development documentation." Victoria's smile faded slightly. "I provided guidance and oversight." "Really?" Elaine clicked again. Email chains appeared showing Victoria removing my name from reports. The room was silent. Everyone stared at the screen. Elaine continued methodically. She showed the budget manipulation logs. She displayed the fake client complaint next to my vacation records. She revealed the promotion packet that Victoria had hidden. With each slide, Victoria's face grew paler. She tried to interrupt several times, but Elaine held up her hand. "I'm not finished." Finally, Elaine read Maya's witness statement aloud. The part about Victoria bragging about burying Marcus echoed in the silent room. Victoria stood up suddenly. "This is ridiculous. This is all miscommunication and misunderstanding. Marcus is disgruntled because he didn't get promoted. He's fabricating." "Stop talking." Elaine's voice was ice cold. "I have reviewed every piece of evidence thoroughly. Our legal team has verified the documentation. IT has confirmed the file deletions. Finance has confirmed the budget manipulation. Everything Marcus reported is accurate and verifiable." Victoria opened her mouth, then closed it. Her hands were shaking. "How? You systematically sabotaged an employee's career. You stole credit for his work. You falsified reports to senior leadership. You committed fraud by manipulating budget records. You filed false complaints. You abused your position as HR director." James Palmer, my department head, looked shocked. Other managers looked at Victoria with disgust. Elaine stood up. "Pack your things, Victoria. Your employment is terminated immediately. Security will escort you out. You'll receive information about exit procedures from legal." Victoria tried to speak, but no words came out. Her career was over. After Victoria left the room, Elaine turned to me. The other managers had filed out, leaving us alone. "Marcus, I want to apologize on behalf of Pinnacle Solutions. What you experienced was unacceptable. You should never have had to document this much evidence just to protect yourself." "Thank you for listening," I said. "I want to offer you the senior director position, the one you should have been considered for months ago. You've demonstrated not only professional excellence, but also integrity and resilience. We need leaders like you." I felt relief wash over me, not because of revenge, but because my work was finally being recognized. "I accept," I said. Elaine smiled. "Good. We'll make the announcement Monday. In the meantime, take the rest of the day off. You've earned it." I left her office feeling lighter than I had in months. I didn't feel victorious or triumphant. I felt peaceful. The truth had won. But there was one more twist I didn't expect. The following week, I heard through the office grapevine that Victoria was applying to other companies in our industry. She needed a new job quickly. Then I learned something interesting. Every company she applied to had requested professional references from her previous employer. Those references came through our HR department, the department that now knew exactly what Victoria had done. 3 months passed. Life at Pinnacle transformed completely. In my new role as senior director, I rebuilt the department culture. I focused on transparency, recognition, and collaboration. Client satisfaction scores increased by 23%. Employee retention improved dramatically. Several people who had considered leaving decided to stay. Projects that had been stalling suddenly moved forward. People wanted to work with me again. Colleagues stopped avoiding me in hallways. My calendar filled with meeting requests and collaboration opportunities. The Brookfield campaign, the one Victoria stole, ended up winning an industry award. This time, my name was on it. Douglas Hammond from Hammond Industries called personally to congratulate me on my promotion. I knew something wasn't right when Victoria said you were leaving. I'm glad the truth came out. I worked calmly and confidently, proving every day that Victoria had been wrong about me. I wasn't leadership material because I was loud or aggressive. I was leadership material because I was prepared, honest, and resilient. I heard Victoria eventually found a job at a smaller company in another city. I didn't follow up on the details. She was no longer my concern. I learned something important through this experience. When someone tries to dim your light, don't fight in the darkness. Document everything. Build your case. Trust the truth. And when the moment comes, shine brighter, quietly, professionally, and undeniably.